What's up, everybody, and welcome back to In the Mind of Jax Taylor. How's everybody doing? Hope everybody had a great 4th of July. I just got back in town from Michigan, spent it out on the lake with my sister and my brother-in-law. It was such a much-needed getaway. Had a lot of fun, but now we're back in L.A., back to work. And today's guest is someone you definitely know. If you were anywhere near a television in the 2000s, he was the notorious bad boy OG from Laguna Beach and the Hills. After publicly battling with addiction and mental health issues for years, he's appeared on Dr. Drew's Celebrity Rehab and began a new life in recovery. Welcome, Jason Wahler. Man, I thank you so much. I said for coming in today. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you even speaking with me. To be honest, like I'm kind of in the beginning, middle area of what you've gone through, and your story really touched me, and how raw and how honest you've been through your journey. I feel like we have a lot to talk about, and so much I can relate to with everything I've been dealing with. You truly are an inspiration, man, and I don't mean to sound so sappy and emotional, but you really are, especially as men. I think we deal with so much. I think there's a lot on our shoulders, and we don't know how to express it. And, because I feel like you and I are the same when it comes to being kind of like an alpha male. We don't like to be kind of told what to do, and we don't really know how to regulate our emotions. And therefore, when I can't regulate my emotions, I turn to drugs and alcohol. So, it's just amazing to have you here. So thank you so much for being here.
No, Jax, thank you so much for having me. Grateful to be here. Appreciate that opening and that intro. And yeah, man, it's a trip looking back. I remember a lot of the stuff that you're experiencing and what you're going through. And it was a lonely place, man. It was really, really challenging. But I'm grateful to see that you're on the other side of this and you're in the midst of it and you're trudging the good road, being open, honest, and transparent about where you're at. Because I totally believe by expressing vulnerability, it creates humility and it allows people to not feel alone. Right. And so I just appreciate you having me here, and I'm looking forward to some good discussions, man, and seeing where this takes us.
Yeah. And you're a new dad, correct?
Yeah, man, we just had our third kid.
Congratulations. I want to get that out of the way because I know you're very, very tired.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. No, it's dude, the last couple months have been real. I mean, having two is obviously is one thing, but throwing a third in there definitely threw us for a loop. It definitely messed up some systems and some routines that we had in place, but wouldn't change it for the world. I know I was telling you right before we got on the show, just, dude, I think it's kind of catching up to me though.
Yeah, God only gave you two hands, God gave you two hands.
I know, man.
Right? So now you got a third in there. Kind of throws a wrench in everything.
It does, but wouldn't change it for the world. But yeah, dude, it's just been a crazy last few weeks. Speaking of just kind of, you mentioned the 4th, and that's kind of like our big holiday here. And a week prior to the 4th, the parents were here. And then the week of the 4th, all my friends from Laguna came out here and visited because we do like a big 4th of July party. And then my brother and some other siblings are going to be coming out and visiting. So it's just been kind of nonstop. So need to put up some boundaries and let everybody know this is going to be the end of it for a minute.
Do you appreciate the help when they come over? You're like, okay, here are the kids. Let me go do my own thing. Here, you pawn them off on you. Here, enjoy.
Yeah, 100%. We definitely take advantage of that and make sure that that the parents and siblings get as much time as they need with their grandkids and or their nephews.
Yeah, I'm totally going to get off topic here, but I feel like one of the many reasons why I think my marriage didn't work out was because after we had our son, I think we put our relationship on the back burner. I think we didn't put us first. We didn't do date nights. We just became almost like a team, to trying to raise a kid. We were basically high-fiving each other. You're in, I'm out. We didn't set aside any kind of us time. And we didn't prioritize our relationship. We didn't prioritize each other. We looked at each other as just we got up in the morning and we're just kind of running the system.
Yeah. And how old is your kid?
My son is 4 now. Son is 4, and I feel like, if I could go back and change some things, I wish I would have, prioritized my relationship a little bit. Maybe that would have helped a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I'm just kind of thinking back why certain things didn't work. I think.
No, You're right. I think that's a super valid point, man. I mean, it's for for Ashley and I, it's imperative that we have that time together. You know what I mean? Because obviously it can get totally swiped away when you have all the kids around and stuff. But I mean, it's important that you still date and that you take the time with one another and be very intentional with that. So I can sympathize and understand that, but we've made it a priority at least once a week to have a date night and make sure we spend time together.
That's amazing. I wish in the communication, and not to be able to walk on eggshells and be able to talk to each other without blowing up, having conversations where you're not like walking on eggshells, I think Brittany and I, that happened to us. We were kind of afraid to bring up certain topics and because we didn't want to upset, the other one. And that was tough. That was really tough. We'll get into that in a minute, but I just wanted to, congratulations anyway. Dad of 3
I
now.
Appreciate it, man.
So I know, just to get into it here, because this is what you and I kind of are the same on. You've been through it, and everything that I'm reading here that you've done, I've done too. Putting this mildly, you're battled with addiction. A couple arrests, 12 different rehabs, 12 different rehab stays. The crazy fame, the reality TV chaos, the relapse, the recovery. Let's start from the beginning. When did your addiction and your mental health become an issue?
Well, so after having the opportunity now it's crazy to think that it's taken me 20 plus years to get to where I'm at now. I mean, through, again, the 13 different treatment centers from Florida to Hawaii, every state in between, all the psychologists, all the therapists, all the different stuff that I went through. I was actually able to do a really, really deep dive and understand that I struggled way before I ever picked up the drink or the drug. And what I mean by that is I ended up struggling with mental health issues and insecurities. I had a lot of self-loathing and just a lot of things I was struggling with as a teenager. And at the age of 12 or 13, I had severe OCD, where I'd wash my hands till they'd bleed, and I'd actually have to wear neoprene gloves at night with Neosporin in them. Wow. And that's kind of where after all these years, because I always thought it was the alcohol and stuff like that, but after doing the deep work, that's where a lot of this stuff rooted from. And what's really, really crazy about that is I started living a double life at that age, because when I was 12, 13, 14 years old, I was always perceived as a popular kid. I was outgoing, I was athletic, kind of life of the party, even at that age. And, that's what the public perceived or my friends perceived or other people. But then it was like behind closed doors, I was living this double life of dealing with this OCD and this underlying issue and never feeling like I was enough, hated who I was. And, my parents did the best that they possibly could. I saw every psychiatrist, every therapist that you could think of. I saw them and, I was put on medications. Yeah, it helped mitigate the symptoms, but I never dealt with the underlying issues. And so kind of fast forward and, from there, that's when, a year and a half, 2 years later, when I find alcohol, I'm like, who needs medication, dude? This is the ultimate relief right here. And so then that's when things started to take off, dude, around like 16, 17 years old. And it just, as we know, addiction is primary, it's chronic, it's progressive. And dude, mine took off at a young age. And like when you're 17, 18 years old, dealing with what you're dealing with, and you're the most impressionable, you're the most you're developing at a crazy rate as well, and then you get thrown into the TV world. It was just a mixture for disaster. I
know, I get you, and especially, and we're going to get into this now, is like I created a character. I think being on TV, I went in, guns blazing. And then by the time I figured out what was going on, I created this character that I felt like people wanted to see, this loose cannon. And, you've been doing it. I was on the show for 9 years or something like that. When you play this person on a show for so long, and people are liking it, the fans like it, they like watching you go off the rails, no pun intended. They like seeing you as a person. You're like, okay, now I got to keep up with this, right? So how do you keep up with this? And you drink more. Now I'm starting to dabble in some drugs, throwing in this cocktail of chaos, right?
Yeah.
And I watched an interview with you with Access, and you said, which hit me kind of hard. You said being on reality TV allowed me to create a reality where I would escape. What you saw on television was a character that was created, and that I wanted to live by that. Like the partying, the out of control person, I fed into that. It was a deflection of what I really needed to deal with, and that was myself. I can't agree more. I can pretty much take that whole that whole segment right there and put it right under my bio as well. Can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, man. I mean, I totally lost sight of who I was, right? I mean, addiction and alcoholism robbed me of everything that I love doing. I mean, I grew up a happy kid, good family, all that stuff. I mean, I love surfing, I love skateboarding, I love snowboarding, wakeboarding, anything outdoors I love doing, man. And just in a matter of years, it drove me to complete isolation and was in such a dark place. But when it comes to the TV stuff, I like to say, and I think this is a pretty good summarization of where I was at and what I was dealing with, is I had an overinflated ego with an underestimated sense of self-worth. And for those that don't understand that, as I wanted what you saw on the outside for you to believe that's how I really thought my life was, but internally I never really felt that way about myself. And so, the best way to do it was to make sure I never had to feel that, and, just continue to keep going down that deep, dark hole. And, and it went, and like I always tell people too, like drinking and using during that time. And that's where it gets really scary, is at first, man, this drinking and using was fun. It became a lifestyle, and then it became a way of survival. Yeah. And you got to kind of see that evolution through the shows. And as I started to go down these downfalls, but yeah, man, it was a pure form of escapism for me. And, there's a lot of people too, when I look back, that really were trying to address that I had, that were concerned, and that, hey man, maybe you should really take a look at this and you have issues. But dude, addiction is a disease of denial. I'm like, dude, I'm 20, I'm 21. I don't have any of this stuff. But, even though I'm pre-genetically disposed, also, on top of that is I'm Cherokee, German, and Irish. When I came out of the womb, I should have had a stamp on the forehead that said, dude, guy shouldn't consume anything. But yeah, just in general, that whole realm. And it's like the saddest and the scariest part, man, is like all these years later, there's certain things I obviously remember, but so much of it was a blackout. Like so much of that time was a blackout. And as I've gotten more sobriety time, and as I've gotten older, I'll have flashbacks of stuff that it's been 15 years.
Does it haunt you? Or does it haunt you? Or does it is there times you're like, oh, do you ever look back and be like, I cannot, for me, it haunts me. And for me, I look back and I'll have, like I said, like you said, flashbacks, or I'll watch an old episode, or I'll see a clip of myself and I'll be like, holy fuck, did I really act like that? It's like, and sometimes I can see the scene and I'll be like, oh, I remember I did a couple key bumps before that, or I shoot tequila right before that episode. I remember this. Yeah.
It's a couple poop snaps.
Yeah. Because it made me this character. Like I said, I thought people liked. I thought, man, what Jax Taylor are we going to get on this episode? What are we going to get on this? What's going to happen here? And it lit a fire under me. And I suffer with bipolar disorder. And when I do cocaine, it makes me feel normal. It makes me feel like, okay, I can, because I suffer with extreme anxiety when I'm completely, I'm not completely sober because I take medication for my bipolar, but, and I do still smoke weed a little bit. I have to smoke weed. It regulates me, and it's better than taking pills. But now I'm dealing with all my issues raw. Like now I'm dealing, as opposed to before, is where I would drink and do drugs to forget about my issues. And now I'm dealing with all this shit head on. And now I'm dealing with all of this backlash of everything that I've done. And I'm dealing with all the old episodes and all that stuff, watching this. And I'm just like, oh my God, I was so self-medicating myself that I had no idea that I acted like that. And it's pure embarrassment. Like how come people didn't call me out on this shit sooner? How did you not say, dude, you have a fucking problem? Or maybe they did, I just didn't want to hear it. I don't know.
That, or it was good for TV, man. And I look back at all those times, and there was moments when I remember things like it haunted me to the fact that I didn't remember that happened. Yeah, right. I've done the deep work and process through a lot of it, but it's also funny, like when a memory or something will come up, I'm like, oh my God, like totally forgot about that. Yeah. And Netflix picked up Laguna, I don't know, maybe like a year ago or something. And it was my wife and my mother-in-law are like, oh my God, we got to watch an episode. And I hadn't seen it in like 15 years. And we watched it. And I was like, dude, first of all, it's like the worst show ever. I couldn't believe the success that it had. But dude, my mannerisms and behaviors would not fly in the culture we live in today. But again, that's somebody that was, I'm not justifying, but I'm also just trying to provide education that I was in a bad place, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. I was struggling with addiction, and you could see it. I mean, I look back and I see who and where I was at. And I'm like, man, that is a lost individual compared to where I'm at today, you know. And it was sad, you know. I mean, it really was when I look back at that stage of how I was having to navigate life, you know, because I think it's important for people to also understand, you know, there's no such thing as recreational use of drinking a bottle of vodka a day or doing heroin or, you know, doing meth. And, you know, it's a pretty miserable place to be when somebody's in that. And so, you know, I just remember every day, like the fight that was there to just, you know, get through another day, because the fun started to wean off after Laguna, going into the hills. And it was, you know, like you're saying, you're trying to keep up with this character. You're wanting to, you know, you have this presence that you're trying to provide to the public. And then like you lose sight of what's even real. You're living like two totally different stories of who you are. And it was just exhausting. It was debilitating. And, man, just what a shitty place to be. And that's why I do what I do today. Is my heart, it just goes out to people who struggle. I mean, man, addiction is the leading cause of death in America for 50-year-old individuals and younger. And it's like, dude, it's just over the course of time, it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And so by us doing this and being able to conversate and communicate and let people know they're not alone in these processes, I think is really, really important to have open dialogue and communicate it, dude, because I mean, it's a serious thing.
Yeah, it is. It is. And no, I'm definitely not putting anything on the show. I make my own decisions, but it did make things a little bit easier. You know, it did make, well, okay, I'm going to turn this on. Who do I need to be today? And I was just going through the motions. And I always had the philosophy, like, hey, if it's not fucking with my finances or my family or my income and any of that, then I don't have a problem. Once it starts to affect one of those, then okay, I'll have a problem. And I never really saw an issue until I was going through my recent divorce. That's when, you know, it started hitting me, you know, financially, with my family, with everybody. And I just didn't care. I was like, fuck it. I'll just keep going. Who cares? I'm at this point. I'll just keep going. And I was just destroying myself and masking all the issues, all the craziness, all my bipolar, not dealing with my father's death, not dealing with all the anger that I had. So much anger. I have some severe anger issues. And you know, that, as you know, I don't know how you know, cocaine just makes things even worse. It makes things even worse, especially the next day. I've never been a really big drinker. I do drink, but cocaine's been my problem. But the problem is with me, if I have a drink, I'm looking for a bag. So it's like, so I had to quit both. I just quit both.
It goes hand in hand.
Yeah, it goes hand in hand. This is an ad by BetterHelp. Guys, I can't stress enough how important therapy can be. Life is really, really hard right now. And for a lot of people, we're dealing with work, we're dealing with marriage, we're dealing with, you know, other people, we're dealing with finances. I mean, to battle stress, most of us can't wave goodbye to work, you know, but we can start small with the focus on wellness. BetterHelp has helped. I've done the therapy. I've gone through going to see different therapists and doing the interviews, and like literally it takes forever. And it's really, I can't tell you how just emotionally stressful it is. And that's why I love BetterHelp, because you can literally do it in the comfort of your own home. I will never, ever go a week without going to therapy again. It's something that I need. It's something that I require in my life now, and it's making me a better man every day. With over 30,000 therapists, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, having served over 5 million people globally. It's convenient, too. You can just join a session with a therapist at the click of a button, helping you fit therapy into your busy life. Plus, switch therapists at any time. It's literally that easy, guys. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/JaxTaylor. That's better, HELP.com/JaxTaylor. I'm not into chasing trends, but I'm all about stuff that fits right, feels good, and actually lasts. That's why I keep coming back to Quince. Their lightweight layers and high-quality staples have become my everyday essentials. Quince has the kind of stuff you actually wear on repeat, like breathable, flow-knit polos, crisp cotton shirts, and comfortable, lightweight pants that somehow work for both weekend hangs and dressed-up dinners. The best part? Everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands. That's half the cost, guys. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical and responsible manufacturing practices, and premium fabrics and finishes. Now, guys, I've been talking about this for a long, long time. I've literally gotten rid of all the t-shirts that I thought were the best or whatever. I only wear Quince. Guys, I'm not going to lie to you. Your girlfriends, your wives are going to steal your shirts because they are so, so soft. You can literally wear them everywhere. You can dress them up. You can dress them down. It is the most comfortable t-shirt that I've ever put on in my life. I literally live in them. My favorite color is black. So I do have a couple white ones, but mostly I wear black, and I just love these shirts. I can't talk, enough about them. Stick to the staples that last with elevated essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/Jax for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's quince.com/Jax, QUINCE.com/Jax to get free shipping and a 365-day returns. Quince.com/Jax. Get your t-shirts now. What would you say was the turning point for you, or the rock bottom point for you, that made you look in the mirror and say, you know what? I need help. I need to change my life right now.
It's a great question, and it's one I get often because, through all the treatment centers, through all the arrest, not only contemplation, but attempting suicide, all the different things I'd gone through in my life. It was not until this moment, and I think there was a lot of people praying for me, and just, I was in this therapy office yet again with my mom and my dad. There wasn't something like unique or different about this, but it was after all this stuff had happened. And I'll never forget, my dad looked over at me, with a tear running down his face. And I've never seen him break down besides when his mom passed away. And he just looked at me and he said, Jason, Mom and I we don't know what to do anymore. The family is struggling. We're at a complete loss. Our marriage is suffering. And Mom and I lay in bed every single night, like two planks of wood, waiting for the phone call that you're dead. And for whatever reason, when there was just a moment of clarity. There was truly a light that clicked on. And that was the motivating factor where, to be totally honest, is I didn't even still want it for myself, but I cared enough about my family that I said, you know what, I'll go back to treatment again. And that's what started me on this journey. And for the first 6 months of my sobriety, they were my motivating factor. Dude, I had lost hope of everything. And so that was something that I held on to. And then by doing the program, after I actively arrested the disease, after I got stabilized and I started to acquire some time, I started to see a major shift in my life. And it was something that went from something I was doing for my family to something that I started to do and sustain and maintain for myself. Mm-hmm. And so, because oftentimes you hear people say you have to want to do it for yourself. For me, that wasn't my story, man. For me, I had a motivating factor. And I think there was something bigger than myself that was really kind of an indication behind that, because it wasn't anything. The car accidents, the fight, all the different things. Dude, I shouldn't have been here 9 times over. You know what I mean? And so that transition, it was July 23rd, 2010. I'll never forget, when that took place, and then when that happened. And it hasn't been smooth sailing since that date, but that's when I really counter and count as where my life really turned around, and there was a new trajectory for where I was going. But my parents are a huge part of my life, man. And again, is if it wasn't for the family dynamic and the dichotomy, like the family dynamic that we had growing up and just us being super close, there's a huge saving grace to that.
Yeah,
so
I can attest. I'm the same way. I never attempted taking my own life, but I definitely thought about it. I definitely thought about it, and I honestly think I processed it. What would happen? How would I do? Things like that were coming into my head. I would sit alone and would I write a note? What would I buy? How would I do it? I don't want to affect anybody. These are the things that were creeping into my head. If I did it, am I going to upset anybody? I was trying to justify it, which was disgusting in my head. I'm it's selfish. And then I was the only thing that really, that saved me is my son. I could not. There's no way I'm going to leave this earth and, have him wonder why my dad did what he did. Or I want to be a success story for him. I want him to be my dad was sick, but he decided to get help, and he's here now talking about it. I I just don't think I could do it to him. Like growing up without a father that took his own life. I solely believe he's the only reason why I'm still here right now. And, the fact that my ex-wife said, listen, I'm going to take your son away from you if you don't get help. You need help. And I didn't want to see it until that, kind of like you, where your parents kind of sat you down and be like, we're just waiting for the phone call. And then I got the same conversation from my sister. We're waiting for a phone call. My friend, people close to me, my manager, my publicist, we're waiting for the phone call. It's not a matter of if, it's when. That's what they said. Yeah. It was an if, it was when. And people were scared. And I just was like, Jesus, I'm putting all these people through this hell and they're all worried about me. And I'm like, I don't see there's a problem. That's a problem, And, I'm still battling with it, to be honest with you. I've been to rehab twice now. First time I did 30 days, came back out, I relapsed. I went back for 17 more days. I haven't touched anything since. But now I'm dealing with all of this, all the stuff that I swept under the rug and all the shit that I caused while I was using. Now I'm dealing with it. So it's all coming back. All the years of doing drugs and starting fights and telling everybody they're wrong and I'm right and this and this and that. Now I'm dealing with us all raw, which is so hard to do. There's nothing to mask it right now. I can't just go out and have a drink and not deal with it. I have to deal with all the shit that I've done. And it's extremely hard, as you know. To put yourself back there and to not just be like, God, I just don't want to think about this anymore. It's tough to do. It's really, really hard.
Well, I think, dude, I appreciate you sharing that. And I think it's important that you give yourself grace. You know what I mean? As much as I'm sure you've heard that or not, but for whatever it's worth, dude, you're making strides. You're in a different place than where you were, and I think it's important to understand that this doesn't happen or change overnight, dude. And I tell people all the time, it's not hard to get sober. It's hard to stay sober. That's where the real work comes into play. And that's where it happens. But, the good news is that there's a solution, that there's an opportunity to get through this. But I think it's, we're our own worst critics. And what we say to ourselves, would you say that to your mom or your dad? You know what I mean? And so it's easy for us to be able to do that to ourselves. And so I just want to encourage you to, look in the mirror and look at what you're doing for yourself, man. You've created a sense of awareness that is allowing you the opportunity to have acceptance, which ultimately will give you an option for action. And you openly talking about this. There's not thousands, there's not hundreds of thousands. There's millions and millions of people that are sitting in your shoes right now, millions of them. And again, I just ask that you be kind to yourself in this situation. And I wish, that's what was told and advised to me, man, because I was so hard on myself. But it's like, dude, you're making progress. And I think that's the biggest piece.
It's tough because I've been using for 20 plus years. I think I've been drinking and doing drugs for that long of a time. It's amazing that I'm still fucking here. And now I'm going to be 46 on Friday. To try and thank you. Try to rewire my brain. Now, I don't want my friends to walk on eggshells around me. I want people to still drink in front of me. I am a little bit selfish now with my time. I'm a little bit selfish with who I hang out with. I'm a little bit more selfish now with when I go out to dinner. I'm usually home right after. I don't know exactly here. I'm going to quote, I'm like 200 I think I'm 210, 15 days sober, something like that. I'm not long enough in my sobriety yet to be comfortable to be in certain, I can't just go to Vegas with my friends. I can't, if I go to dinner, I leave right after dinner. I'm just not, I know for a fact I'll never touch a drink or a drug again, but I just don't feel comfortable being in those situations when everybody else is drinking. I get annoyed by it.
Jax, the best thing though about this, man, one of the coolest things about sobriety is not only was it the opportunity and the ability to actually get to know who I am and what it is that I like again, like that light that was completely dimmed that I told you when I was a younger kid finally came back 20 years later. I'm out there, I surf again, I skateboard, I snowboard, I do all the things that I love. And it's like almost I had this amazing life as a young kid, and then it just got completely dark.
Yes,
and then that light finally came back in. And
how long did that take? If you don't mind me asking, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm trying to find that person again because drugs and alcohol consumed so much of my life that I forgot what I enjoyed to do. Did it take some time for that to happen?
Dude, some people it's every single person's different. There's no cookie cutter model to it, and so some people it's, 90 days to 6 months. Some people it's 6 months to 9 months. Some people it's after a year.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's what the beauty behind this is. You just said you were drinking and using for 20 years. Yeah. The amazing news, though, is it's a pretty good deal when basically, by that year mark, it's usually people's lives have changed pretty drastically by that year mark. And I will make a statement that if you get 1 year to 1 year of sobriety, you have an 85% chance of hitting 5 years. But when you get to that 1 year mark is when your life starts to drastically change. And that's when I started to feel comfortable in my skin. I started to feel comfortable about, in identifying who I was surrounding myself with. And that's the other thing is not only did I get to know myself again, but I also started to surround myself with people that I wanted to be connected and or associated with, because you are a product of your environment. And it's like when I started changing the ways and the mannerisms I started acting, my group started to change. Right. And I also got to see who really cared about me and who didn't.
Yes.
And so like it was a whole process, man, because it was like I was grieving my best friend, which was alcohol. I mean, every time I drank it, I knew exactly what it was going to do for me, or Coke or whatever your drug of choice is. So it was like that grieving process. And then it's like you have this whole new way of life. You're experiencing emotion. It's like it's this whole thing, And so, but again, as if it took both you and I, whether it's 10 years, 20 years for you to get there, it's like, hey, man, it ain't going to take you 10 or 20 years to start to feel normal again. It's a lot quicker if you do the work and you do the deal. And so that's where I would encourage you is like, also, it's like what you do, like my program is such a big part of my recovery. It's a day-to-day thing for me. It's what you put into it is what you're going to get out of it. If you go to the gym 5 days a week, you're going to get the results of going 5 days a week. Right. You go once a week, you're going to get the results of going once a week. And so I think for me on a daily basis, I am constantly and actively participating in my program from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. And it's not like I have to do this. It's like I get to do this. Like my mentality is shifted around these types of things where it's a part of my life. Right. That I love, man. And it's because, and I was going to share, you brought up a really crazy point about both of us having that direct connection with your son being your motivation, my parents being my motivation. But I also know how cunning, baffling, and powerful addiction is because I relapsed after having 5 years of sobriety. And I relapsed because what's predictable is preventable, man. Everything that I had done to get to where I was at, I stopped doing. Right. And so, long story short is where I say this is part of that process. When I was in that gnarly length of relapse, it was like 2.5, 3 years long, on, off. We got pregnant with our first child, Delilah. And, Ashley thought like by us having, getting pregnant was going to help get me back on track and stuff like that, dude. And that's just how progressive this disease is until there was a major disruption, like I wasn't able to get back on the wagon, dude. I mean, I was at the first floor at Hoag Hospital in Newport Beach where my daughter was being born on the 4th floor. I went from detox up to the 4th floor, watched her be born. And then from there, went home. And I think I was like, I didn't actively arrest the disease. I went home for a few days and then, dude, I was back at it again. And it wasn't until like 6 months down the road where I was finally intervened on. I had my, sponsor, I had my family, I had my friends. I'm like, holy shit. You know what I mean? But that's how crazy this thing is. That's like the thing that my kids, I love more than anything. Like they're my life, man. Right. Like I do, like they're everything. But like when that disease kicks in and what it does to your frontal cortex and what it does to your brain and how it just hijacks it, it's really scary. And so for me, I know that I have to, it's not alcohol. It's not alcoholism, it's alcoholism. It's there. And if I don't do what I need to do on a daily basis to treat that, I know where it can take me back. And so again, I'm a big proponent of really trying to live in the day and live in the moment and do that. But there's just so much that's here, and there's so much that, there's so much similarity and so much relatability that, I just want to encourage you that you got this thing, man, and you can continue. And everything that you're feeling, bro, is normal. Yeah. Like, dude, just because, and I'll tell you with, coming back up on 6 years again in December, is just because I'm sober doesn't mean that life doesn't happen and shit doesn't happen, but it becomes a lot easier to process and deal with. My reactions now have turned into responses, and I'm able to really, be cautious and think about how I respond to things versus just react. And dude, I'm not perfect at it, but I can tell you I'm way better than I used to be.
I really appreciate you being here. Everything good in your life so far, man, right now, though? You happy right now? Everything good?
Dude, everything is really, really good. Honestly.
That's good. That's
very,
good.
Very blessed, brother.
And I, like I said, I appreciate you being on here and talking to me. And like I said, I'm definitely going to pick your brain some more. But I know you got 3 kids now. You got your hands full and then some. Again, thank you so much for stopping by. We will. I guess we will see you guys next week. Thanks again, Jason, so much for stopping by. That's it for In the Mind of Jax Taylor. We'll see you guys next week.
This summer, Pluto TV is exploding with thousands of free movies. Summer of Cinema is here. Feel the explosive action all summer long with movies like Gladiator, Mission Impossible, Beverly Hills Cop, Good Burger, and Transformers: Dark of the Moon. Bring the action with you and stream for free from all your favorite devices. Pluto TV. Stream now. Pay never.
I earned my degree online at Arizona State University. I chose to get my degree at ASU because I knew that I'd get a quality education, they were recognized for excellence, and that I would be prepared for the workforce upon graduating. To be associated with ASU, both as a student and alum, it makes me extremely proud, and having experienced the program, I know now that I'm set up for success. Learn more at asuonline.asu.edu.